What's up, traders? My name is Tony Struger and welcome to the channel. For those of you that don't know, I'm a 100k funder trader with CK Capital UK, trading FX and commodities. I'm also a head trader for a crypto fund here in Australia. So I want to make a video today analyzing Bitcoin and Ethereum because there's a lot of crypto bros online at the moment saying that crypto, Bitcoin, all the alts are going to get a super massive pump in October, in the coming days. And I just want to give an analysis and based on what I'm looking at, because there are some bullish things, but there are also some negatives to what's happening in the markets right now. So first we'll start at Bitcoin on the weekly chart, right? You can see here from the lows, the cycle lows from the last cycle, right? 2022, we've had this big bull run on the weekly up to where we are now. So just looking at a fib retrace from this level to this high, if we did have any kind of a sustained move, which I'll tell soon, which is that level that we have to watch for that holds. If we get a break of that level, which is up around here, then I'd be looking for targets as low as 80,000, which would be the 382, in between the 382 and the 618. When you're looking at the cycle retrace from this low to this high. Now there's nothing telling us right now that that is going to happen. A few things would need to happen before that even becomes a target, but it's really important that I talk about where we're up to on the weekly trend right now. So here we had the lower high, the higher low, higher high, higher low, equal high, higher low, right? And our higher high. Over the last couple of months, we've had a lot of consolidation in here. But in terms of weekly pivot point, we had this low to this high. All right. So let's go on the daily and look at what's happened on the daily. Now, this low is that weekly pivot low, all right? And this is the high. So just looking at a retracement from this low to this high, and the reason we're not taking this high is because we're looking at a weekly, right? We're looking at a weekly. So here, that is that high on the daily, which we're not going to put it on because yes, on the daily, that is a high, but on the weekly it's not, right? And because we're doing a bullish retrace from the weekly, this is going to be our high here, and this is going to be our higher low. So yep, people might say, well, is this a high? I would say yes, it is a high. This is a high. It's just a very strong trend, right? So that's our lower high, that's our higher low, and that's our higher high. So going back onto the daily, right? And let's get back on the tools. So you can see from this low to this high, a bullish retrace where you want a strong trendy move to retrace is in between the 382 and the 618. Once it starts to retrace further below the 618, you could say that that bullish trend has now lost a lot of its steam. So if you want to buy trendy moves, then you want to be buying them around that strong retrace level of the 382 and the 618. So you can see that this has bounced at that 618. This is the 618 here. This is the 382. So we've completely bounced inside that zone. So that's a very, very big tick for the bulls, right? Now, in terms of structure on the daily, we easily saw we had this big move up. So our higher high, higher low, this wouldn't have been drawn, this box at that point, because this was the high, right? But we had the higher low, higher high, and then we had a break of structure here. You had an equal low at this point. It wasn't actually a confirmed low. It was one green candle, doesn't mean it's a low. And then we had the lower low. So we had a break of structure for Bitcoin when we had this move. And then once we broke past this, which was right here, then we had a shift in structure. Now, am I looking to short Bitcoin if that happens? Well, if it was in a weekly downtrend, yes, that would be a yes for me. But because price at this point is bouncing at a strong weekly trending level, which is that 382 and the 618 level, I wouldn't be taking a short in here, right? You're looking for buys still at this point. So price found a low here at the 618 and it came back above. So that doesn't mean we're out of the water. right? Because what happens here is that we have a daily retrace from this high to this low, right? Because this is the higher high and the lower low. So that's the change of structure. So we want to see now, if this is now a downtrend on the daily, we want to then see, what price does when it retraces to this level. Now, let me just mark it off properly. So what did price do when it came back to this level? So for us to see a trending bearish move, you would want to see it reject in between this 382 and the 618, which it did, but we didn't get pushed through further because we were still at the weekly bullish retrace zone. So not looking to make shorts until price breaks below this point. So at this point in the charts, if this candle had a close below here and started to consolidate underneath this level, that would be telling me now that this bullish trend on the weekly is losing its steam, and I would have been looking to take a sell here. But we've had a strong bounce out of it, right? So as you saw here, we have bounced inside it again. We've also got this, trend line coming up in here as well, governing price action. But when we've had this bounce here, we've now very bullishly had a close on the daily above this 618, above confluently this support and resistance zone, right? But what we need to really see is multiple candles closing above this zone. We don't want it to see price reject here today or in the next day or so, and then we start closing back under here. What I don't really like all too much right now is there is a daily supply zone, which is this candle right here. As you can see, this is a bullish candle followed by an explosive and impulsive bearish candle that starts off this break of structure. So the fact that we're getting resistance here is quite normal because this is our daily supply zone, right? Now, inside this daily supply zone, there is a 4-hourly one as well, which I'll show, and price is literally inside of it now. And it's the same kind of idea, right? It's a bullish candle, you can see, followed by an explosive bearish candle with price not even touching it. This candle closely came up and touched it, didn't quite, right? But now look where price is right now. Price is right up in this zone. Hasn't broken it, it's just closing in it. It's seeing some resistance because it's a H4, so a 4-hour supply zone inside of a daily supply zone. So we may, what I don't like about this is where all the crypto bros are going to be super excited. They're going to be like, we've broken above this high, yay, we're bullish now, we're going to go to the moon. Now, just remember, volumes have been absolutely dog shit. Just look at the volume here. Volume has been terrible. Look at the volume on the weekly for this entire move. We had a big spike in volume at the low, the cycle low, but since then, get rid of this. Since then, you can already see without me even doing this. Right? It's been declining. Lower, 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 lower. So volume, although we've had this massive move up, has been declining, right? Now, I don't have too much time to go into this as well, all indicators, but we've had weekly bearish divergence on the RSI the entire way up, right? We also, I believe, have it on daily as well. Yeah. So I don't want to get into it too much right now. Sort of focus mainly on price action, but we had volume declining. We've had bearish divergence on the weekly. We even had one thing I will touch on, the bearish divergence in the weekly. For myself, when we have this stab, this is the initial point, the second point, each of these price action was seeing higher highs, right? But none of these were below the extreme zone. Even this one, just outside of it. It could be classed as inside. This could be the last bearish stab of bearish divergence that we see the reversal. Or what we see is now price, as you can see, like look at this. Price looks like it wants to make a new high on the weekly. So we might get price doing this, and we see another weekly high. But what's RSI doing? It's so far low. This one would more than likely be closing inside or outside of the extreme zone. This is the extreme zone here. So it will be closing within the extreme zone again, which is then my signal that this is going to be played out. That bearish divergence is going to be played out. So crypto bros are getting super excited right now. Yes, we may see push up right here, but this, I really don't like to see this right now. All right. But until that happens, you know, as a trader, we're not here supposed to be with crystal balls. We just look at what's possible, right? So, but in the meantime, we still have to get past this daily supply zone. I'm just going to get rid of it, and this 4-hour supply zone with prices, you know, stumbling out right now. If we do get price reject here today and close back underneath this 618, then that's not going to look so bullish for me, right? But I reckon we're probably going to, you know, consolidate along here, probably going to get that bounce. I don't know when it's going to be, but it'll be setting up weekly bearish divergence very nicely. We may actually get back under here, but look, this is, I would not like to see price close under there, because then it's going to start to present, you know, once we then get 4-hour shift of structure happening, it's going to start to present us opportunities for sells lower. But like I said, until we're actually hanging above this zone here, this weekly bullish retrace, then I'm not going to be having any shorts. If price closes under here, then we can start to look for targets at this level here, which I'll actually explain what this one is, what this would be. If you look at this cycle low to cycle high, and at the moment we've only got into the 382 and the 618. If we put in all of them, the 236 is right in line with this week low we had here around the mid-June, right? So if we get price on the weekly closing below that 618, which is that daily level, right, closing below here, it's also going to be lining up with the closure below this trend line, so nice confluence there. I would be saying that we're going to have a test to this low area here, and to see how it respects. Right, if it respects this, we could just get consolidation and keep going up from there. But if we break that, we're breaking that cycle 236 retrace, I would then be looking at Bitcoin to come back around to that 82,000, even as low as 70,000. But we're far off from that right now. Right, we're far off from that right now. And let me just get rid of, cool. So that's what could happen. But what we need to protect first of all is this level. So the bulls need to protect this support. Well, this has been resistance. We need to see if it is used as support now. If it doesn't, then we're probably going to get tests back in here. And then if that breaks, then we're going to come back down to here. So these are some key levels right here at 108. And then you're going to have your key level here at about 100,000, 98,000. Now, very possible we're going to see that push up and then weekly put in bearish divergence, and then we'll have our top. So probably not going to be the top right now, but all crypto bros right now think that if we get a push out between here, that everyone's going to start calling, $250,000 Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin. Not in this cycle, guys. Not in this cycle. So Bitcoin's looking a lot stronger than Ethereum's looking, right? Very much so looking stronger. If we come here to Ethereum, this is the weekly on Ethereum. Now, although Bitcoin has continued to make high, all-time highs, as we all know, this is Bitcoin. This is the November 2021 high and November 2021 high. We haven't even closed above that on with Ethereum. So Ethereum is nowhere near strong in terms of a cycle as well, but in terms of this weekly low to this weekly high. If we get some breakdowns up here, we're going to be more than likely testing the $3,500 level, which is the 382 to 618 level, which is where you would want to see a strong trending macro move. Where price is rejecting right now on the weekly and staying above is the 236 of this move, right? Which is what we looked at in Bitcoin as well. So if you really want to have this as a strong trending move, the 236 lines up with these highs beautifully. Great. We've had a wick below and a closure above. Right. That's very nice. Now, so we're using that really well. Now, if you come to the daily time frame, you're going to see the breaking structure. So once again, I would be more happy with shorting Ethereum than I would be with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has retraced to that golden zone, right? That 382 to 618 level, and Ethereum right now has only come down as low as the 236. Generally, I find when you get weekly closures below the 236, you then get a test to the 382. So we haven't had that yet, right? But just looking at the daily time frame, here you had some tells on Ethereum having this top here. You also had the bearish divergence on the weekly, which I won't go too much into. Or was it the daily more so? We had it, yeah, the daily. So we had the high, so lower on the RSI, higher on price action, higher on price action, lower on the lower RSI. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes out of the bearish, the extreme zone. So this is it here. So that high in price, lower highs in RSI. Now this last one, higher high on price, lower high on RSI, out of the extreme zone. So that was your first tell that Ethereum was going to be having some consolidation. And I actually had a long on Ethereum around here and sold literally up there. I'm going to show that trade with broker statements as well, because that was a beautiful trade. So that's that low, that high. The trendy move here on Ethereum is very clear. High, high low. That was that one we just talked about, right? With the RSI bearish divergence on the daily. But look at this as well. Look at volume. That's not good. All right, we can go a bit more accurately, right? That's what we're looking at. But you can see it's declining volume throughout this entire move. Throughout the absolute entire move, we've had declining volume. Now, let's go back to that first sign of a top here, was when we had that bearish divergent move, right? And you can see automatically the shift in the strength of the trend. Here you had your high, low, higher, high, too many, let me just show this, higher, high. Now price, let me just draw this up so we can see this, because this is really, really important to look at this one. So you see from this trendy move, price came back to the 382, that golden zone for this move up. Beautiful, right? So we bounced here, but then we made another higher high. All right. So then if you're looking at that, you want to see this trendy move on the daily to be coming back to and rejecting from this 382 to 618 area. However, this red candle closed below all of them. Not a good sign. It actually came back to the 786. I'll just show you that so you can see it. That retrace was back to the 786, which indicates a very weak, see that blue line? Shows a very weak trending move. So we already had that sign. a very weak trending move because it's broken below the 618. We had the bearish divergence on the daily. So already you should know that the crypto bros were looking at this going, okay, beautiful. We've had this high. This is a higher low. This is a higher high. This is another higher low. That's bullish. Yeah, it is, but it closed below the 618. That bullish trend lost its steam. And where did it reject to? It rejected at the 236. So if we put this one back on, and I'll get all of those other ones on there too. This red line there. So price blew past the golden zone, tested the 786, come back and rejected at the 236. I wouldn't be looking for a rejection at the 236 if price only it bottomed out. If it bottomed out here within this healthy zone here, I'd be looking that was your sign that we could have potentially gone higher, but we didn't. We closed under there, multiple candles, bounced at the 786. Right, so rejected at the 236, putting in the lower high, so a confirmed lower high, and then there was our break of structure. And this is the thing that gets me as well. We've just had out of 13 days, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 days, we had 11 red days. And then all of a sudden the crypto bro see 1, 2, 3, 4 green days out of 6. And they're looking for crypto to go to the moon again. 4, I get bullish on Ethereum is I need to see price closing above this 618, because that would mean that the bearish trend on the daily isn't as strong as what we think. Right, just like that example here. This one closed under the 618 and bounced at the 786 and got rejected. This one, if we get here and it doesn't get rejected here at the 618, but it comes up here higher, what you might find is we're going to get price may reject here at the 786, which is what we had on this scenario, may reject here at the 786, which is lining up with this is the 4-hour resistance area. It could reject here. Plenty of reasons why it could reject here, right? So if we get that here, what you're probably going to get though is you're going to get Bitcoin to look like it's rolling over, and then the bears are going to get super excited. But what will happen, Bitcoin's probably at this point, because it's broken above the 618, it's lost its bearish steam, it might just get here, look to put in a higher low somewhere around here at the worst case, which is that 236, in line with this low here. But you might just see it come back here or even here, and then it's going to put in its higher low, and then break this level, put in a higher high, and then we're in an uptrend. All the while, it will be keeping that weekly trend structure where it's only retracing to the 236, indicating that it's a strong trend. All right, so keeping intact the weekly, put in a solid break above that 618, saying that the bears have lost steam on that daily downtrend, and then it's going to come and bounce here. So am I looking to buy right now? No, because we haven't broken above this. But if we get a rejection here, this is what I wouldn't like. This orange box here is a 4-hour supply zone. Bullish candle for a very strong bearish impulsive move. Right? If we reject here and don't actually close above the 618 on the daily, I will be looking for the 4-hour time frame to see a shift in structure, because the 4-hour time frame here has been right. This isn't a high. This is an uptrend, right? So if we get here, wick up here, candle close here, we may get a higher low, we may get a lower high here, and then we get a break of structure, which is breaking this higher low, and we've also had a lower high. So then we look to sell here. So that's my scenario for shorting Ethereum. All right, that's my scenario for shorting Ethereum. It hasn't happened yet, but if we do get that rejection at this H4 supply, put in a shift of structure, that's where I'll be looking to short, and I'll be initially looking to see how it handles this 236 area with a target of the 382. Right, I wouldn't be holding it anymore from that, because this is where a lot of bulls are going to be stepping in again, because it's the strong point for that weekly macro trend to continue from. Right here is as well, but here also, if we get a shift of structure at this point, this is going to be where it's going to happen. All right, so the problem is bulls are going to be getting super excited right now. Right, and if we roll over here, bears are going to be getting super excited, and then bears want to hold it, and then the right people sell off at this point, and then we get a shift. So it's just full of people who just emotionally hoping and wishing that the charts are going to do something because they're bag holders. And you need to just be more focused on what the charts are telling you rather than what your emotions and how much you love the asset and how much you just want to get rich from buying Bitcoin and getting lucky. We all do, but you need to follow levels and look at some key indicators on the charts. And I want to keep that on, right, because this is the golden pocket I'm looking at the moment. That's our key level around that 4,900. It's almost 4,500. But there's another one up in here. I'm pretty sure that was a H4. Yeah, beautiful. Another one. So that's where this is right in line. This is why I love TA. This supply zone, this H4 supply zone is coming right in line with that 786. So if we break above here, we've lost bearish steam, rejection the 786, which is confluent with this H4 supply zone. We then get a move here, we then get a high, a low, and then we get a break on upwards. So it's like, don't ever FOMO into these thinking, oh, I should have just bought here because that was the low that I wish I had gotten on. Who gives a shit? It's not about what price you get in, it's your risk reward. If you buy something right here, where's your stop loss? It's going to be here, really. And then if you're aiming for just to test the highs again, you barely got in the 1-to-1. So it's not worth rushing in based on a price thinking that this is the low, because if this scenario does happen where we get this move up here and then we do get price coming back down to here and then putting in that low, what you're going to have to look for on the lower time frames, because remember on the 4 hour it's going to be doing this, and then you get a shift of structure there on the 4 hour, your opportunity to buy is on the shift of structure there on the 4 hour, and then your risk reward looks something like this. So number one, you've been patient, you've waited for confirmation, and then you've got a better risk reward play because you've waited instead of rushing. And just to bring it back to the top, 1 to 3.5. Right? Beautiful. So none of this has happened right now. This is just all crystal balling. But so hope you guys have seen some key things I'm looking for at the moment and what could happen if we get a breakdown at these levels. But right now it's all looking bullish, but it's not bullish to the point where I'm going to buy now. If you do, that's fine. That's your choice. You know, this isn't financial advice at all. But for me, what I'm doing is I'm waiting for more confirmation. I'm not rushing into this move. I'm just going to see how it plays out, because also I need to see more volume than this. We need to see a lot more volume. If we get in here at this point, it does do that. For it to go up again, I need to see more volume. But remember, Bitcoin's got that potential terrible volume, and it's got one more stab on Bitcoin to make another high on the weekly. You're going to have about another stab of bearish divergence on the weekly RSI, and it's also going to be out of the extreme zone. It's also going to be out of the extreme zone, which is going to be, for me, the big sign of up, break of structure, and then we're going to get a retrace to the cycle zone of around that $85,000 mark, lower, $80,000 mark. Right, but this is a long time away. This is just thinking of what could happen. Anyway, I'll stop rambling on. Hopefully you guys have taken something from this. I'm going to be doing a post probably twice a week on Bitcoin, Ethereum, just to see what the market's doing, how it's changing throughout the week. If there's any alts you want me to look at, I'm more than happy to do an analysis on them. Just put it into the comments and I'll do it on the next video. But if you want to get updated about this and see what see how I'm analyzing the charts, like and subscribe. And like I said, put a comment, tell me the best thing that you thought you got out of this video. Although, peace guys, take care.